Okay, sure. So what you're seeing on the screen is using the tool Postman, which is a convenient tool for being able to work with REST APIs and be able to display their contents. So I have a particular server, a parent server in this case, it's running on the IP address, and the endpoint API v0 gives us this listing below. If I hit send again, it'll go to the server, and this is essentially giving me all the different endpoints that I have. I said earlier that all databases have a unique URL. So if I do databases, I get a listing. These can be quite large in large environments, so there's controls here for pagination. So you see 26 total databases in this environment. We're seeing 10. I can add limit equals 100, and I can see all of them, or I can change the limit to 1, and I can see one of them. I can do offset equals 5, and I can paginate through lists. So that's the general convention for going through large lists of things. I can do the same thing with schemas. So I can see all the list of schemas in the enterprise, and if I get rid of my limits, you'll see that it can be a very long list. There's 270 in this case. I can do the same thing for tables, where I can see all the tables, 486, and I can do columns, and every column is given a unique identifier. I can take and find and grab one of these, and I don't know if this one is particularly useful, but we'll do it for demo purposes. So in my URL, if I put the column identifier, I will get the metadata for it, and you'll get, if it's been profiled, you'll get richer metadata. This one doesn't look like it was profiled. Domains, so I can list all the domains that were found. There are 374. Also, there are filter parameters. So this uses convention that's used on SCIM, filter, label, contains a product, for example. So we look for all domains. We can see that we have domains like product price or product name. So we can take one of these domains and we can put its identifier in the URL. We can see the information about it. And if we do /columns, and I don't know if this particular one was mapped to columns, it was. Now we see all the columns that were mapped to the domain. So all that information that you saw about the automatic scanning and profiling and correlation, you can get through a domain. And so if you're integrating with something like a business glossary, IBM Business Glossary, Calibra, Adaptive, that this is sort of your hook into it, that they've created terms in the glossary, and that through this you can either link mechanically to the metadata, and you can pull it in and reformat within these other environments, or you can get to the report through a similar mechanism that has what we just saw earlier, that has the contents, or you can do both. There's a wide variety of things. Looks like we're almost out of time, but just to give you a view of concepts in the glossary, domains, notifications. So if you want to monitor events that are happening in the system, there's a long polling mechanism where you can open up a stream and get events such as a workflow started, a workflow ended, a new defect was found, a new domain was found, new column mapped to a domain. You can subscribe to those events. There are workflows. So in the tool, and maybe just briefly going back to the tool to show workflows, all of the processes, and out of the box you get this on the left are workflows that come with the product. But if we look at like domain column profiling, that it follows a sequence of steps. Profile columns, for each column do the domains, do whatever. And that these can be invoked also through the API. You can monitor progress through them. You can customize these workflows by adding them. They can be very complex, as this one shows. So in the interest of time, I think I'll pause here and see if Dr. Mukherjee, you want to add any final comments?
Bill, I think that's great. I think we covered the API very quickly, and the workflows very quickly. So if anyone has questions on the API or the workflow, we could certainly have a subsequent session. There are questions about the hands-on demonstration. So there's a hands-on session that you can sign up for as well, right? Where we can actually give you an environment in Amazon, and we'll walk you through how to implement the software. So everything that we described is actually fairly simple to implement, in a hands-on way. So you need really two pieces of information. You need to know how to connect to a database, and you need to know which workflow you want to run, right? So we can show you how to run those two steps, how to connect to a database or a set of databases, and how to run the appropriate workflow. And then after that, all the results that we showed on screen are generated based on these workflows. So if you know how to run the appropriate workflow, you know how to generate the results. And then if you're a programmer, you can use the API to build applications on top of the information that has been collected. So we think that this particular implementation is simple, right? And we'd be very happy to walk anyone through a typical implementation. The ability to then extract this information and build your own applications, that is very, very powerful. So with this REST API, you can build your own application. So we look forward to sort of showing you all of that in a hands-on way, assuming that you're interested. So please send us an email if you're interested in doing that. And thanks so much for your time. Gary, let me hand it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. Thank you, Mr. Winkler, as well. This concludes the Global IDs Awareness webinar. We look forward to having conversations with you in the future. Thank you.